Hello. So today's video is going to be a book haul. I have quite a large book haul. Today I've been all about the place. First off, you'll have to excuse my appearance. It's been super hot here in the UK recently, and it's just very muggy today, and I couldn't be bothered to do my hair or my makeup, so we're just going to have to deal with that for today. But yeah, I've had a bit of a stressful couple weeks, and when I get stressed, to make myself feel better, I go book shopping. So I have a large book haul here today. I also have a unboxing video or unbagging video to do. I did a huge online order for some horror books, and this is a mixture of books I got today, mainly thriller and some horror, but yeah, mainly like crime thriller type of books. I went to Waterstones, I went to the works. I got one book from online, and I also got a couple of books from Poundland. So yeah, I'll get on with it and show you what I got. The first book I got is The Humans by Matt Haig, and I got this online because I was doing an online Amazon order, and I basically wanted to up my order so that I got free shipping because I don't have Prime. So I picked this book. It was only like £4 off Amazon, and it's actually one I've been wanting to read for a while. I really like Matt Haig's books. I actually like his self-help books, his like non-fiction. I read Notes on a Nervous Planet, and I have a book about anxiety from him, and I also read The Midnight Library, which I really enjoyed. I reviewed that a couple years ago. So yeah, I really wanted Humans. It's basically, I think there's an alien and it's his views on humanity. It says after an incident one wet Friday night where he is found walking naked through the streets of Cambridge, Professor Andrew is not feeling quite himself. Food sickens him, clothes confined him. Even his loving wife and teenage son are repulsive to him. He feels lost amongst an alien species and hates everyone on the planet, everyone that is, except Newton and his dog. Who is he really? And what could make someone change their mind about the human race? So yeah, it sounded very interesting, and I know I like his writing, so I thought I would give this one a go. The next few are from the works. I first picked up The Death of Mrs Westerway. I got this for £2.50, and this is another author that I really enjoy. I've read I think 5 of her books, and I've loved all of them. I've been reading her books since her first ever one, which was In a Dark Wood, which I reviewed many years ago. It's probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. But yeah, I've just loved her writing ever since then, and this one sounded really interesting. People who like Ruth Ware, this is often one of the books out of all of her writings they say is their favourite. So I haven't read it, and I thought I'd pick it up. I normally like to pick up her books in hardback, but I saw this one for so cheap, I was like, I'm not going to pass it up. And then if I really like it and I want to reread it in the future, I can always pick it up in a hardback at a later date. But this is about Harriet, and she receives an unexpected letter telling her she's inherited a substantial bequest from her Cornish grandmother. It seems to have answered her prayers. The problem is her real grandparents died 20 years ago. Hal desperately needs the cash and makes the choice that will change her life forever. She knows that her skills as a seaside fortune teller could help her con her way into getting the money. So yes, it's like following a con woman who is trying to inherit a large amount of money. And yeah, it says it's dark, dramatic, highly atmospheric, very twisty. Her books often have little twists and turns in, so yeah, I'm excited for this one because again, it's an author I know I like. Another author that I've read from previously is Lucy Fawley, and this is the Paris Apartment. This was on sale for £4. She's also the author of The Guest List, which I have but I haven't read yet, but I have read Hunting Party fairly recently from her and I enjoyed it. I actually didn't realise it was her at first until I saw the way the synopsis was at the back, the way it was written. I was like, oh, that was like The Hunting Party, and then I realised it was because it's the same author. So it says, unlock the mystery, only you hold the key. So it says, a beautiful old apartment block deep in the back streets of Paris. Secrets are stirring behind every resident's door. A lonely wife, a party animal, a curtain twitcher, a secret lover, a watchful caretaker, an unwanted guest. There was a murder here last night. Who holds the key to the mystery of apartment 3? So this is going to be good. I think I'm going to enjoy this. I did enjoy The Hunting Party, and yeah, all her books sound really interesting. She always does like themes that I really like the sound of. So I got that one, and then lastly from the works I got One Last Secret by Adele Parks. Would you kill to keep it? So this sounded interesting. Again, this one was £4, and I believe it follows a ex-call girl, and she's trying to rebuild her life and start a new life, but some of the guests, she's staying in a French chateau, I believe. Yeah, it says, a beautiful French chateau should be an easy final job for Dora. She's smart, stunning and discreet. She only needs to convince the other guests that she's Daniel's girlfriend. Okay, so this is like her last job as a call girl, but obviously things don't go quite as planned. So yeah, she wants a better future. It says, one last secret. It says, as the guests assemble, it becomes terrifyingly apparent that putting her past behind her is impossible. One last secret could cost Dora everything, including her life. So yeah, I thought this premise sounded interesting. Yeah, good setting as well. I think this would be a good book to read this summer. So yes, the next books I bought are from Waterstones, and I've actually already read some of them, but I wanted to do this haul before I do the review. But these are books I've been eyeing up for a really long time and I've been really wanting. So first of all, I got Life Ceremonies, which I have started. This is a short story collection. I'm about 3 stories in, or 2 stories in. Yeah, 2 stories in. I've read First Rate Material and Magnificent Spread. Really enjoyed both of them, really interesting. I picked this up because this author, Sayaka Murata, probably pronounced that wrong, but she's the author of Convenience Store Women, which I really liked that book. It was one of my favourites of last year, so I wanted to pick up more by her. So like I said, this is a short story collection. I've read 2 stories so far. Really enjoyed them. I'll do a full review when I've finished, but her books are just so weird, but I really find them interesting, which brings me on to the second book that I picked up, and this is Earthlings by the same author. I've also already read this book and I will be doing a review on this book very soon. I have some thoughts. These 2 books, her last book, Convenience Store Women, I would say was fiction. It was literally just a simple story about a woman who works in a convenience store and about her life, and you get to know her as a character. It's almost like a character study. I really enjoyed it. These 2 books, when I went to look for them in Waterstones, I couldn't find them in the fiction section. I just found Convenience Store Women, and then there was a gap, so I was like, oh, the other books are obviously sold out. Then I went to look in the horror section and I found both of these books in the horror section, and I was like, oh, I wasn't aware these were horrors, specifically not Earthlings. I didn't think this was going to be a horror. Yeah, they definitely are. They're definitely horror books. So yeah, I'll do full reviews on them. But this one again follows a young girl set in Japan, and I don't want to say too much because I'll talk more about it in my review. But yeah, it follows an unusual young girl who is struggling within her family. She doesn't quite fit in, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say. But those are the two books I really wanted. I also ended up picking up another Japanese book because she's Japanese, her books are set in Japan. This is a Japanese bestseller. I've seen this all over, you know, it was on YouTube, BookTube, TikTok, and this is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by this author. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name because I will butcher it, but don't really have to say too much about this book. I feel like it's been talked about a lot on here on BookTube. But it follows this little cafe in Japan where when you sit in a certain seat, you can time travel, but you can only time travel for the amount of time it takes for your coffee to get cold, and then I assume you get transported back, but I will find out. And it's, yeah, a collection of short stories about the different people who go to this cafe and experience time travel. So I've heard good things about it. There's also a second one of this book out already. So yeah, I was really intrigued. I've heard good things and I'm really interested, so picked that one up. Another book that I picked up was actually a graphic novel. I've been eyeing this up for a while. There are a couple in this series, and this is The Sad Ghost Club by Lisa Mendings. Find Your Kindred Spirit. I read this in one sitting. I've already read it. I'll have a full review coming up. Loved it. But yeah, it's a story about loneliness basically, and yeah, how to find your people. And yeah, I love the artwork in this as well. I read this literally in under an hour. I just read the whole thing in one sitting. That was really good. The next books I picked up are all from Poundland. So the first one I picked up is Evil Beyond Belief, a true story of Harold Shipman, Britain's most prolific serial killer. So I used to read a lot of true crime stuff, and then I kind of phased out to read other stuff. I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts and I watch a lot of YouTube content around true crime. I like watching true crime documentaries. This killer's name isn't pulling anything up in my mind. I'm wondering if when I start reading it, the story will come familiar to me. But yeah, I was intrigued and it was for like £1, so why not? So yeah, it says for 20 years Dr. Harold Shipman was a GP in his town in Hyde, Greater Manchester. Kind, attentive, never too busy to chat, Shipman was a pillar of his community. His patients adored him. Little did they know that their good doctor was on his way to becoming the most prolific serial killer in history. His MO was simple: paid a visit to elderly patients. Yes, I do recognise him. I do recognise this story. To elderly patients, sometimes expected, sometimes unannounced, and administered a lethal injection of heroin with blood-curdling professionalism before returning to his office to falsify medical records for their death certificates. So yeah, he did this for over 2 decades before anyone suspected him. So yeah, I will be reading this story and I will let you know what happens. Oh, well, obviously we know what happens. He was a serial killer who killed people. But yeah, I wanted to learn a little bit more about that story. I then picked up The Spiral, and this is a story. It's by Ian Ryan, and this book is about, I believe, a woman who a crime happens to her. She has a perfectly ordinary life, and then she gets shot twice by a targeted attack by a colleague. Her quiet existence is shattered forever. With her would-be murderer dead, no one can give Erin the answers she needs to move on from her trauma. So yes, I think this is going to be quite a dark read. Obviously it's a woman trying to deal with her trauma of being shot by a colleague, so yeah, I thought it would be interesting. The next book I got, I believe, is non-fiction, and it's the name, the title of the book is The Power of Not Thinking by Simon Roberts, and it says how our bodies learn and why we should trust them. So I think this is like overthinking. It's like I think a self-help book about how to not think and worry so much. And I thought this would be interesting because I'm very much an overthinker. I'm very much a worrier. So maybe you'll have some tips in here for me. A humanistic perspective on tech, an incredibly thought-provoking book about the power of not overthinking, a potential to change the way you think about understanding people. So yeah, I will give this one a go. It was £1, it sounded interesting, so yes. Have you ever relied on your hand to remember your pin rather than your memory? Or act out a golf stroke before going for it? Or listening to your gut before making a big decision? In this insightful new book, leading business anthropologist Simon Roberts breaks down the revolutionary idea of embodied knowledge, the information that is unconsciously picked up by our bodies and used in every areas of our lives. Oh, okay, this actually might be even more interesting than I thought it was going to be. So it's like muscle memory and stuff. Drawing on his own experience working for the world's leading industry experts on looking at the range of real-life examples of cutting-edge science, it explains the various ways in which our body acquires, retains and employs information, and why we should learn to trust the instincts that inform us of our most crucial decisions and actions in our life. The Power of Not Thinking shows why humans are capable of far more than we are currently led to believe. We just have to stop thinking and start trusting our bodies. That's interesting. Yeah, I think this is going to be a good one. So yeah, learning how to trust our instincts basically, which I know is true, because like when you stress out about stuff, like I had anxiety for a really long time, and then last year I started getting really bad chronic headaches to the point where I had to go to my doctor. I even had to go to hospital at one point because they thought I'd had a brain aneurysm, when in actual fact my body was just so stressed out that it was causing physical pain, because I wasn't acknowledging that I had this amount of anxiety and stress, so it was coming out in a physical form. My body was like alerting me like, hey, you're not okay, but because I wasn't acknowledging it, it started to come out in the form of like extreme tension and headaches around my neck and head. So yeah, your body can tell you stuff when, you know, sometimes you don't even realise. So that'll be interesting to read, I think. I then bought my last and final book, again from Poundland, was this big chunky book, and I think it's going to be a crime thriller by David Fennell, and it says he is creating a masterpiece and she will be the star of his show, The Art of Death. Tense, gripping, brilliant. So I'm guessing this is going to be a crime, a thriller about a serial killer. I didn't like look too much into the Poundland books when I picked them up, because they were like £1 and I was like in a rush, and I was like, do you know what, the books in Poundland, when they're in there, they sell out really fast and you don't often get repeats of the books. Do you know what I mean? Like once it's in and then it's sold, that's it, because the stock we get is just kind of random. So yeah, I grabbed the ones I thought looked good. So this one says 3 glass cabinets appear in London's Trafalgar Square containing a gruesome art installation, the floating corpses of 3 homeless men. Shock turns to horror when it becomes clear that the bodies are real. The cabinets are traced to Anonymous, an underground artist shrouded in mystery who will make a chilling promise. More will follow. 18 years ago, Detective Inspector Grace escapes the notorious serial killer. Now her and her DC Harry Quinn must hunt down another. As more bodies appear in London's landmarks and murders are live streamed on social media, their search for Anonymous becomes a desperate race against time. This sounds like it's going to be a really good serial killer novel. So these detectives are hunting a serial killer who is live streaming his murder scenes, I'm guessing. So yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a really good serial killer story, crime thriller novel. So yeah, I have like a non-fiction kind of like informative self-helpy kind of book. I have a couple of crime thrillers, a true crime thriller, a graphic novel, then some like international authors, and yeah, some really interesting sounding books. So obviously I've already read Earthlings, and I am currently reading Life Ceremonies, so I'll have reviews up of these very soon. They were very interesting reads, as well as The Sad Ghost Club. And then I think I will probably move on to maybe the Ruth Ware book, because again it's a reader it's an author I can read fairly quickly. I know her writing quite well, and the Matt Haig. So yeah, a lot of different books by some authors I really enjoy, and some new authors. So let me know what books you think sound interesting and what you would like to hear a review of first. And yeah, let me know if you've heard of any of these books, if you've read them and enjoyed them. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So my battery light is now flashing. So as always, thank you for watching, and until next time, bye guys.